My name is David Clarke, and up until recently, my life was a whirlwind of luxury and excess. I worked as a financial consultant, pulling in a six-figure salary that supported a lifestyle of designer clothes, weekend getaways, and five-star dining. My girlfriend, Vanessa, loved every moment of it. She thrived in this world of indulgence, always seeking the next expensive thrill. But a few months ago, something shifted inside me. Maybe it was the burnout from work or the realization that material wealth couldn't fill the void I felt. I wanted more: purpose, simplicity, authenticity. I started cutting back, donating to charity, cooking meals at home instead of eating out. Vanessa pretended to be on board, but I could see the cracks forming. One night, while she was out, I was organizing receipts for tax season. Among them was one I didn't recognize: a dinner for two at an exclusive restaurant I hadn't been to. The date matched a night I was working late. My heart sank. I grabbed her tablet from the coffee table. Vanessa had never been one for privacy, until now. Her messages were synced to the device, and what I found confirmed my worst fears. She'd been exchanging flirtatious texts with a man named Brandon. Their banter was peppered with inside jokes, intimate comments, and plans for secret rendezvous. The timestamp on the most recent message was from just hours earlier. My hands trembled as I read the words, each one slicing deeper into my chest. She wasn't just cheating, she was reveling in it. And Brandon? He wasn't a stranger. He was one of my closest colleagues. After that night with the messages, my world shifted. Every glance Vanessa gave me felt like a lie. Every smile she flashed carried the weight of betrayal. But I didn't explode. I didn't rage. Instead, I buried the anger deep, letting it simmer as I planned my response. The office was my refuge during those days. I'd sit at my desk, staring at spreadsheets and stock analyses, while my mind plotted something far more personal. Confronting Vanessa immediately wouldn't have been satisfying, not after what she'd done. I wanted her to feel the weight of her choices, to realize the consequences of her betrayal. And I wanted Brandon to know that his actions had consequences too. It started with a simple question at work. "Hey, Brandon, what's Claire up to this weekend?" I asked casually during lunch. He looked up from his sandwich, visibly startled. Nothing, I think." "Why?" "Vanessa and I are hosting a little dinner party. You guys should come. Just close friends. Drinks, good food, some laughs." His hesitation was immediate. He glanced down at his plate, the corners of his mouth twitching. "I'll check with Claire," he said finally. "Great. I'll send over the details." I patted his shoulder and walked away, fighting the urge to sneer at his obvious discomfort. Back home, Vanessa was ecstatic about the idea of hosting. "It's been ages since we had everyone over," she exclaimed, pulling out her phone to start brainstorming decor ideas. I watched her from across the room, a bitter taste in my mouth. She had no idea what I'd found or what I was planning. "Yeah," I said, forcing a smile. "Let's make it special." The next few days were a whirlwind of planning. Vanessa dove into the details with her usual enthusiasm, picking out wine pairings and testing appetizers. I played the supportive boyfriend, nodding along to her ideas, even offering to pick up some extra decorations. All the while, I kept my emotions under tight control, never letting my mask slip. Late one evening, as she was scrolling through Pinterest for centerpiece ideas, she sighed dreamily. "I love this," she said. "It's going to be perfect." "Perfect," I echoed, though not for the reasons she thought. As part of my plan, I reached out to a few other friends to ensure the guest list was substantial enough to create the audience I wanted. People who admired Vanessa's charm and my so-called perfect relationship. People who would be shocked to see the truth. When I confirmed Brandon and Claire's attendance, the anticipation inside me grew. He was trying to act normal at the office, but I could see the tension in his posture, the nervous glances he shot my way. Vanessa, on the other hand, was completely oblivious. One evening, as we prepared for bed, she looked at me with that same bright smile that once made my heart race. "I can't wait for Saturday," she said. I nid, turning off the light. In the dark, my mind churned. How could she be so blind? So unrepentant? The morning of the party, I went for a long run to clear my head. The crisp air helped dull the edges of my anger, but the betrayal lingered, a constant presence. As I ran, I rehearsed what I would say, how I would deliver the revelation. It wasn't just about exposing her, it was about reclaiming my life. When I returned home, Vanessa was arranging flowers in the living room. She looked up and beamed at me. "These are going to look amazing on the table," she said, holding up a vase. I nodded, forcing a smile. "They're perfect." Inside, though, I felt hollow. This wasn't the life I wanted anymore. The lavish decor, the pretense of happiness, it all felt meaningless. But tonight, I'd take the first step towards something real. As I helped set up the final touches, Vanessa hummed to herself, completely unaware that the party would mark the end of everything she thought she controlled. And for the first time in weeks, I felt a strange sense of peace. Because tonight, the lies would end. The house looked immaculate. Vanessa had outdone herself, as usual, transforming our home into something worthy of a lifestyle magazine spread. Candles flickered in ornate holders, their soft light dancing on the walls. The table was adorned with a floral centerpiece that Vanessa spent hours arranging. Everything was perfect, down to the carefully chosen playlist that hummed softly in the background. Guests began to arrive right on time, filling the space with laughter and the clinking of glasses. Vanessa moved through the room with ease, her charm on full display. Watching her was like observing a master performer. She laughed at jokes, complimented outfits, and made everyone feel like they were the most important person in the room. It was hard to believe this same woman had been hiding something so venomous behind that dazzling smile. When Brandon and Claire arrived, Vanessa's confident exterior faltered for just a moment. It was a fleeting hesitation, so quick that most wouldn't notice. But I did. Her smile tightened, and she glanced at me nervously before rushing to greet them. "Claire. Brandon. So glad you could make it," she said, her voice just a touch higher than usual. Claire hugged Vanessa warmly, oblivious to the tension in the air. Brandon avoided my eyes as I shook his hand. His grip was weak, damp with sweat. Good, I thought. He should be nervous. As the night progressed, the house buzzed with lively conversation. I circulated among the guests, casually engaging in small talk while keeping a close eye on Vanessa and Brandon. They avoided each other, but the avoidance was its own kind of signal. I noticed the way Vanessa glanced at him when she thought no one was looking, the way he flinched every time I walked by. Then came the subtle jabs. "Vanessa's been so busy lately," I said casually during a lull in the conversation. "It's like she's always running off somewhere." "Right, honey?" Vanessa froze, her wine glass halfway to her lips. "Oh, you know how it is," she said with a strained laugh. "Just keeping up with everything." "Of course," I said, my tone light but pointed. Brandon shifted uncomfortably in his seat. Claire looked puzzled but said nothing. The tension grew thicker as the evening wore on. Each comment, each glance, added another layer to the unspoken drama. By the time dinner was served, the atmosphere was electric, humming with unspoken truths. Vanessa's smile was beginning to crack, and Brandon was a shadow of his usual self. The performance was nearly over. As dinner wound down, I stood and tapped my glass with a spoon, calling for attention. The room quieted, all eyes turning to me. Vanessa looked up, her expression wary. She knew something was coming but couldn't stop it. "Thank you all for being here tonight," I began, my voice steady. "It's been a wonderful evening, and I'm grateful to share it with such good friends." Vanessa relaxed slightly, thinking this was just another toast. But then I turned to her, my tone shifting. "There's something special about gatherings like this," I said. "They remind us of the importance of honesty, trust, and loyalty. Values that are the foundation of every meaningful relationship." Vanessa's face drained of color. Across the table, Brandon looked like he might be sick. Claire furrowed her brow, glancing between the two of them. I continued, my voice growing sharper. "Unfortunately, not everyone here seems to value those things." I let the words hang in the air, the silence deafening. "David," Vanessa said, her voice trembling. "What are you talking about?" I ignored her and turned to the room. "You all know Vanessa and I have been together for a long time. And I thought we had something real. But it turns out, she's been sharing that something with someone else." Gasps rippled around the table. Claire's eyes widened in shock as realization dawned. She turned to Brandon, her face a mixture of disbelief and fury. "Brandon," she whispered, her voice breaking. Brandon stammered, trying to deny it, but the truth was written all over his face. Vanessa reached out to me, tears streaming down her cheeks. "David, please, let me explain." "Explain what?" I snapped, my composure finally cracking. "Explain how you've been sneaking around with someone I trusted. How you've been lying to me for months." Claire stood abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. "You disgusting coward," she spat at Brandon. "How could you?" Brandon tried to grab her arm, but she pulled away. "Don't you dare touch me," she said, her voice venomous. She turned to me, her eyes filled with tears. "Thank you for telling me," she said before storming out. The room was silent, the weight of what had just happened pressing down on everyone. Vanessa sobbed openly, her perfect facade completely shattered. I looked at her one last time, the woman I once thought I'd spend my life with. "We're done," I said simply, my voice void of emotion. Then I walked out, leaving her to face the wreckage she'd created. These chapters deepen the tension and emotional turmoil of the story while building up to the climactic reveal, making the narrative more gripping and impactful. The house was a silent battlefield. The aftermath of the party lingered in every corner, empty wine glasses on the table, half-eaten hors d'oeuvres, and the faint scent of flowers Vanessa had so proudly arranged. But now, the warmth of that gathering was gone, replaced by the cold, biting reality of betrayal. Vanessa had retreated upstairs immediately after the last guest left, leaving me alone in the living room. I sat on the couch, replaying the night's events over and over in my mind. The look of shock on Brandon's face. The crack in Vanessa's polished facade. Claire's sobs as she stormed out. It was like a scene from a movie, only this was my life. I leaned forward, my head in my hands, the weight of it all finally hitting me. What was I supposed to do now? Where was I supposed to go from here? I'd exposed the lies, torn the mask away, but the emptiness that followed was suffocating. The next morning, Vanessa came downstairs, her face pale and drawn. She hesitated at the bottom of the staircase, clutching the railing as if it were the only thing keeping her upright. "David," she said softly, her voice cracking. "Can we talk?" I glanced up from the cold coffee in my hands. "Talk about what, Vanessa?" "How you betrayed me. How you lied to me every day for months." Her face crumpled, tears spilling over as she stepped closer. "I made a mistake, okay? I was stupid, selfish. But I love you, David. I never stopped loving you." Her words felt like a slap, bitter and hollow. "You call that love?" I asked, my voice sharp. "You humiliated me. You lied to me. You made a fool of me in front of our friends. Don't stand there and pretend this was just a mistake." She dropped to her knees, grabbing my hand. Her touch burned, a painful reminder of everything we'd lost. "I'll do anything," she said desperately. "Therapy, counseling, whatever it takes. Just, don't give up on us." I pulled my hand away, unable to bear the contact. Us? Vanessa, there is no us. You killed at the moment you decided someone else was worth more than what we had. Her sobs grew louder, but I couldn't bring myself to feel pity. Anger, sadness, disappointment, yes. But pity? Never. Over the next week, Vanessa clung to the hope of reconciliation. She left handwritten notes on my desk, cooked my favorite meals, and tried to strike up conversations as if nothing had happened. But every effort only deepened the chasm between us. One evening, after another failed attempt at normalcy, I finally confronted her. Vanessa, stop, I said, my voice firm. You can't fix this. It's over. Her face fell, her eyes wide with disbelief. You don't mean that. I do, I said, the weight of the words settling in my chest. I've thought about this every day since I found out. And the truth is, I can't trust you anymore. Without trust, there's nothing left. She stared at me for a long moment before nodding slowly. I guess I always knew you'd say that. I just didn't want to believe it. Her voice was thick with sorrow, but this time, I didn't soften. She needed to feel the finality of my words, just as I'd felt the finality of her betrayal. When Vanessa finally packed her things and left, the house felt impossibly quiet. I stood in the doorway, watching as she loaded the last box into her car. She turned to me one last time, her expression unreadable. I hope you find someone who can make you happy, she said softly. I didn't respond. What was there to say? As her car disappeared down the street, a strange mix of emotions washed over me, relief, sadness, and an undeniable sense of liberation. The fallout from the party extended far beyond Vanessa and me. Word of the betrayal spread quickly among our friends, fueled by Claire's fiery determination to expose Brandon's lies. She filed for divorce within days, refusing to entertain his pleas for forgiveness. Vanessa, meanwhile, faced the consequences of her actions in her own way. The friends she'd so carefully cultivated began to distance themselves, their loyalty to me outweighing their sympathy for her. The life she'd built, the image she'd worked so hard to maintain, crumbled piece by piece. I wasn't immune to the rumors and whispers, but I didn't let them define me. I had my own healing to do, my own path to walk. One evening, weeks after Vanessa left, I sat on the porch with a glass of whiskey in hand. The air was cool, the sky painted with streaks of orange and pink as the sun set. I thought about everything I'd lost, and everything I'd gained. For the first time in years, I felt like I could breathe. Vanessa's betrayal had shattered my world, yes. But it had also forced me to confront truths I'd been avoiding for far too long. I'd been living on autopilot, letting my life be dictated by expectations and appearances. Now, I had the chance to rebuild, to start over. I raised my glass to the horizon, a quiet toast to the unknown. Whatever came next, I was ready. Weeks turned into months, and my life began to take shape in ways I hadn't expected. The house, once a stage for Vanessa's curated lifestyle, became a sanctuary for me. Gone were the glossy, showpiece decorations. Instead, I filled the space with things that reflected me, shelves I built with my own hands, photos from my hikes, books stacked in every corner. One Saturday, while exploring a local farmer's market, I stumbled across a small booth selling handmade pottery. The pieces were raw and imperfect, with visible fingerprints and uneven edges. Something about them resonated with me, the beauty and imperfection, the evidence of a human touch. Beautiful, aren't they? A voice said beside me. I turned to see a woman about my age, her auburn hair tucked into a loose braid. She wore an apron dusted with clay, her hands calloused but delicate. Yours? I asked, gesturing to the pottery. She nodded, smiling. Every lopsided curve. I chuckled, picking up a small mug. There's something honest about them. Like they're not trying too hard to be perfect. That's the goal, she said. Life's messy. Might as well make something meaningful out of it. Her words stuck with me. We talked for a while, and as I left with the mug in hand, I realized something. I wasn't just filling my house with new things. I was filling my life with new people, new experiences, new meaning.